Hello, hello, this is the Mythical Dragon here. Welcome back to the Dragon's Den. I had a lovely week off and we rested and recuperated, and now we're back better than ever. Question mark on that, and you'll see why, as today's topic will be about mental health. Yeah, this will be an interesting one for sure, but an important one to have. I usually run away from this topic, and today I'm embracing it. So this will be good. But first of all, make sure you pull up a seat and select a drink of your choice. I have both coffee and water today, in an attempt to caffeinate and have energy, but also stay hydrated. I know those two things counteract each other, but we'll pretend that it works. Yes, here we are. So we're going to talk about mental health today. So I want to start off with a little disclosure that if you are in the wrong headspace, or you listen to something that you hear today that gets a little upsetting or triggering, or you just don't want to continue watching, totally okay. Pause that video, go do something to lift your spirits a little bit, and come back when you are ready to dive in further to mental health. I know this topic is quite heavy and big and large, so that it's very okay with me. If you need to pause it at any time, leave and go do something else. That's disclosure there, and let's go through this. So this isn't going to be a big research-based podcast chat or episode. It's just going to be about myself a little bit, as a lot of the time we really struggle to explore our mental health as people. We are not very open about it. I've avoided it a lot on even posting it social media wise, even in my Discord or anything like that. Like I really have shied away from it, except for a few of the friends that want to check in and know. So today is me being a little brave and exploring this and talking about it in a very public way that will hopefully help, So it'll be good. Let's begin though. So as I've mentioned before, my previous attitude to mental health really has been, well, you're feeling a certain way, that's okay, go do something to make it go away. That's kind of like the little mantra I had for a while, where it's like, well, you're feeling lonely, upset, crazy, weird, dumb, stupid, all those really negative feelings. How about you just stop feeling that way and go work on a project, or go read a book, or listen to music, or do anything else besides just accepting how you feel and what's going on. I've tend to still fall in that category a little bit, but I know now I have a system in place where I can talk about things a little more openly with a few people in my life, and it can be okay, it's accepted and explored in a healthy way. Whereas before, growing up and all throughout university really, I kept it to myself and burdened it and shouldered it and kept it on my shoulders, and that's it. That's all there was to it. And it wasn't good. It wasn't working, because a lot of things imploded and fell apart when you do that. And I've learned that lesson very hard and very roughly in the last few years. So it's time to embrace it and talk about it. That actually leads to also my attitude to counseling and getting therapy and therapists and psychology and psychologists and all that stuff. I avoided them like the plague, because I had a very stereotypical view of therapy, where they continue to ask you, how are you feeling about that? What do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And sure, some of that is still pretty true in some of my counseling sessions I've had in the last year and a bit, but I also was avoiding it for a pretty big reason. I don't like looking back on my childhood or my past or my history. I really am someone that's very future focused and wants to get somewhere and do something with their life, instead of, why do we have to go back to when I was like 8 years old and when I moved to a different city, and why do we have to focus on these things? No, I don't want to look at that. But now it's actually an interesting exploration to do. You start to realize that, oh, my brain actually works this way, because when I grew up, I really was that kid that just read books by herself, was alone, and didn't want to talk to anybody. And there's that kind of realization. And then I realized, oh, being alone, distracting myself with other things, and not having friendships and things like that, I'm in that same mode right now. So that stemmed from my childhood, and that's how I coped with things. Great. That's an interesting realization to have. And then also other things too, like how I view family and view friendships. It's all this kind of weird, jumbled mess of experiences I've had that has wired my brain in a certain way that goes, oh, okay, the feelings of me being broken and fucked up? Nah, not really. I'm just someone who's been through a lot and has gone through a lot and continues to go through a lot. So before, I did not want to do any of that, because I knew as soon as you start opening that box of your past experiences, your childhood, and some pretty major events in your life, it's not a fun feeling. It definitely is something you struggle through, and there's so many realizations, and you cry a lot in therapy. You do. It's okay. You're allowed to cry. I've learned that in the last year. It's okay to cry. And the greatest thing though about that is you don't just have to open that box, explore it, and have nothing happen from that. When you're going through therapy, you can work through it, and there's so much science behind it, really, of the different ways you can kind of rewire your brain or sort of get you coping and thinking in a different way. And that's been an interesting thing to experience, because I had a previous therapist who would do a lot of role play with me, where it was just me practicing ways to be a little more assertive, to stand up for myself, or to find a way to approach like my parents if I wanted to have a deeper conversation about things that I've been through and try to get that understanding or clarity. And there's that technique where you have to like role play and practice with your therapist a little bit, and that's a lot of fun, especially if you've never been able to do that in your entire life. It gets a little scary and difficult, but there's no judgment. There is no harsh reality, basically, or some deeper thing behind it. It's more like, well, we tried, you got there, you were able to be assertive once out of the 5 times of practice. Next session we'll try it again, and maybe you'll be more assertive 2 times instead of once, or 3 times and 4 times, and then finally you're able to get that 5 out of 5 that you're achieving. Fun fact, never ever at 5 out of 5 yet, so it's a whole process to go through. And then there's other ways too. So therapy has actually been interesting, and I'm really honestly grateful that I've explored this before having a therapist through watching psychology videos on YouTube. Now I know some of them are not good to watch. Some of them are sort of like this very generalizing statements or generalizing experience that can make you feel like you're out of the norm or you're not really accepted, because generalizations usually do that. You want to avoid that if you can. You don't want to say, oh, all people who go to therapy are broken. Nah, all people who are in therapy for different reasons. So generalizations can be really tricky to deal with. So I recommend, even in not a mental health sphere, but in your entire life, avoid generalizing and universalizing things, because there's over 7 billion people on this planet, and I can guarantee you all 7 billion people do not go through everything in life in the same way. So just throwing that little teaching moment out, I suppose, in the podcast. Hello. But the one YouTube series that I saw, so I'm actually going to link this, everything that I bring up, like resources and things like that I talk about today, I'll link it all and have some resources available in the description for you guys, so you can have access to anything that you're curious about. And my first real exploration of like my mental health and psychology, and seeing if there's actually anything that I can learn from this realm of the world is through YouTube in a very weird way. I am one of those people, full disclosure here, going to be honest and open in this conversation today with you guys, that I watch 90 Day Fiancé. Yeah, I always joke that I watch trash TV, and well, it's true. I watch a bit of trash TV. But whenever I do watch one of those episodes or a series or a season, I always sit there and go, well, why are these people doing this to each other? Why are they lying, telling secrets, or having secrets, really? Why are they going behind their backs, talking to their exes, and trying to find out information in all this really horrible, manipulative, and secretive way? Like, why do people do this? It's so awful. Stop doing this. And through that, I had on my recommendation one day a year ago, I think, a year or two ago, of this Psychology in Seattle channel. So that's the channel. I will put that in the description for you. And it was him reacting to one of the people on the show, Darcy. Now, if you know 90 Day Fiancé, you know who I'm talking about. She's got her own spin-off show on TLC now, Darcy and Stacy, her twin sister. And the psychologist, so he's actually a registered licensed psychologist in Seattle, hence Life Psychology in Seattle. He began to do reaction videos to her entire story on 90 Day Fiancé, her whole journey. And I was so curious because I remember watching a few episodes with her and her partner Jessie. Before I moved to the UK, I think, or when I was in the UK, I can't remember the timeline there. And I was like, whoa, this is explosive. This is a little interesting. Oh boy, why are they doing this to each other? Again, that thought process. Why do people do this? And so I began watching. And his name is Kurt, so Dr. Kirk, and Dr. Kirkhonda, I should say his full name. And I was blown away that he had such compassion for both people in the conflict in the show, basically. Because, like, we all have this tendency, basically, when we watch a lot of drama reality TV, to pick sides. Oh, he's the one that did this, so he's the bastard, and we have these kind of natural reactions to shows. He really tries not to pick sides, and I thought, whoa, that seems like a healthy way to handle life. I want to know more. I want to experience this a little more. And so I watched that whole series of Darcy, and he's still reacting to her because of the spin-off show. So it's like Darcy and Jessie, Darcy and Tom, and then now Darcy and Stacy. So there's 3 series there. Lots of content to watch if you want to get started. And I was blown away because he has 2 hats when he watches these shows. His therapist hat, where he shows a lot of compassion and tries to do these jumping off points to find better solutions for the conflict, basically. So he'd be like, if I was Darcy in the situation, I was fully, differentiated, healthy, securely attached, all these like big psychology terms, I would say something like this, or maybe a better approach would be to do this instead of just harping on him and judging every little thing he does. And that's such a great way to learn about human behavior. And he would explain too why someone like Darcy or Jessie or Tom or whoever really on the show, because he's really expanded his reaction videos over the past 18 months of this pandemic. And he'll really try to explain someone would normally lie or tell secrets if they're not differentiated or securely attached, if they've been through trauma, and he'll try to explain it without diagnosing it, like the person, because again, diagnosing happens through many, many sessions, personally one-on-one, many, many hours, and therapy and work. And of course, we only see what the show shows us, so it's not a whole big full picture. He discloses that a lot in his episodes. But he's like, this is how I can hypothesize, or how I can maybe try to help explain it a little bit so that people can understand human behavior a little better. So I was fully sold. I watched all of Darcy, and then he reacted to other couples that I was currently watching, because my mom and I watched 90 Day Fiancé together quite a bit, and it's so funny to like watch that show with my mom, who does do what we normally do in shows: pick sides, yells at the people, why are they so stupid, all those kinds of things. And then I'll go watch Dr. Kirkhonda, and I'm like, oh, they're not stupid, they're just a little, life has treated them poorly, and this is how they think they should react and handle life. If they had a little bit of therapy, they could kind of correct that, or to better handle it or cope with it a little better. So that started my whole exploration. And after a couple months of watching a lot of the channel, and finding out that he has a podcast too, so you can find his podcast on Spotify and Apple and all those other like streaming services, basically, I then expanded. So he actually will take in Patreon questions, viewer questions, and he'll explore things and help us understand what we need to understand. So it was really interesting, and it's not a replacement for therapy, and he will tell you that in his videos, but it's a good way to start getting interested in human behavior and psychology and mental health. And through all of this, I realized, okay, you know what? I have been put through the ringer this past few years, really. I've been set up for success, only to fail as soon as I arrived in the UK. I've been abandoned a little bit. I've lost friends. I've been through cycles of like friendships and communities and groups and the whole works. I've lost a lot of people in my life. I've got a very small friendship circle. I figured, you know what? This psychologist, and a couple other psychologists too on YouTube that I really, really get, but mainly him, because he's the only one I watch now at this point, because I found the others tend to get a little more reactive, like a viewer reactive versus therapist reactive, so I've stopped watching them. But through his channel, really, I finally listened to a pretty deep episode on his podcast. I think about, what was it? Oh, like, I think it was about like losing friends. I don't remember the actual title of the episode. It's been a year and a half since I've seen this, but it was an episode on friendships, and how he was explaining that people, if they never go to therapy, or they never really work on themselves or explore why they do the things they do, they will fall into these cycles and repeat it over and over again. And he explained a lot of the theories, like the attachment theory and a lot of these psychology like theories behind it all, and I was like, oh gosh, that's me. I've been through cycles and cycles of friendships, and I've done the exact same thing in each of these cycles that have left me feeling the exact same way and has led to the same result. So that was a really huge episode that I watched. I like cried. I was crying listening to that because of that realization. Oh no, it's not just these people that have upset me and hurt me and like made me upset. I played a role too, and that was hard to swallow. And I remember, I think the next day, because again, you're emotional, you don't want to jump to conclusions and do things right away when you're emotional. You take a little break, and then you think about it, sleep on it, and then you get up in the morning and decide something. And that's when, literally the next morning, I decided, you know what, let's find a therapist or a psychologist like Dr. Kirk and see if I could get some help in understanding myself a little more. So really, it's been a journey. I can't believe it started from a YouTube series, oddly enough. Like, this world is wild to me. But after doing research of my own based on the theories he mentioned in his videos, and reading a little bit more about them, and listening to his deep dives on Patreon, because I was a Patreon for him for quite a while, I decided, you know what, I could read all these theories, I can understand them, but I'm not going to understand myself within them. So let's go to therapy. Let's break down that stereotype I had, that's judgments or the preconceived notions of therapy I had. Throw those all out the window and just try it. And I had a really good therapist, a fairly good therapist, for almost 6-7 months, basically. And she really played on the fact that I was a teacher, because she would give me homework a lot. Not all therapists will give you homework, but sometimes it's needed, especially after a heavy session, and things went to a different direction than the intention of the session. So I had a lot of homework, and a lot of it had to do with trying to be more assertive, setting boundaries, because I struggle with that quite a bit, and really trying to understand my feelings and how I was feeling. Because we all have those generic, like, oh, I feel tired today, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm a little sad, but that's okay. We all have those kind of generic feelings. But there's a whole spectrum of feelings that can actually be a little more specific to how you really are feeling. And I had to study the feelings wheel. So I'll share that resource, of course, down below. And it kind of branches out in the circle. So the main core is like your typical core emotions, like anger, sadness, happy, anger, sad, happy. Why are those the only tired? There's, those like kind of key generic emotions, okay, that kind of thing. And then it branches those out into further little like categories. So if you're angry, what kind of angry are you? Frustrated, volatile, all these things. And then it branches those down furthermore into more specific feelings like isolated, abandoned, rejected, weak, and like all these other kind of emotions. So it really expands it out and you get specific. So a lot of that 6 months of therapy basically was nailing down the emotion to the very outer core of the circle, to that very specific feeling that you are feeling, and all the experiences that I shared and all of my life that I shared with this person. That was hard for someone like me, because again, I like to default to that, oh, I'm fine, like, don't worry about it, it's okay, I'm feeling like this, but I'll get through it. Like, I'm really dismissive of my own emotions, and still doing that to this day. Cheers to me. Yep, that happens. But I'm trying to get better with that. So this feelings wheel has been really helpful, because now I can feel like, oh, I'm not just lonely. I can be lonely in different ways. I'm lonely today because I feel abandoned, because friends didn't respond back to me, for example, or I feel like the plans I made got canceled, and that's that abandonment feeling. Instead of feeling just lonely, you feel abandoned or rejected or left out. And that was really helpful for me, because I found like that blanket term of lonely or tired or okay really didn't get to the core of it at all. And it was a huge help for me. So I got that from my very first therapist, basically, in the last 1.5 years. Then I had to take a break, because I went through a series of moves, like literally a series of moves, because I moved out of my mom's place. That was actually an encouragement from that past therapist, because I couldn't really gain a lot out of therapy living with people who wouldn't get it, or that could still constantly trigger me and not let me have my progress, basically. And it's true. Do I want to explain my relationship with my mom in this podcast? We'll see. We'll get there, probably. But also with my stepdad and little brother. Little brother didn't get it, because there was one time I let it slip. They're like, oh, I can't hang out right now, buddy. I have a meeting. And he's like, what meeting do you have at this time of night? And I was like, oh, it's just therapy, don't worry, it's okay. And he's just like, but you don't need therapy, you're really cool. Oh, I remember that statement. You don't need therapy, Violet. You're really cool. I appreciated that. Like, my little brother thinks I'm cool and put together and awesome. Thanks, dude. I love it. But I was like, nah. Sometimes, buddy, life doesn't go my way, so I'm just seeing someone to help me find my way. And he goes, oh, alright. Well, stop being lost and go find your way. He's 11, guys. Well, 12 now. 12 now. Jeez, my little brother's 12 years old. Anyway, so that's his, like, mindset, right? Like, oh, okay, well, go find your way. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go find my way. But still, like, things that they did or said would just constantly, like, put me back in a place of, like, my childhood, or make me feel a lot of really negative feelings. And so I moved and reconnected with my sister. We lived in a house that we rented for a while, and then the owner, why am I disclosing all of this? I don't know, it's a story. And the landlord decided they needed to sell the house because she was based in Saskatchewan, and oh god, now I have to explain Canadian geography, don't I? I live in Alberta. Saskatchewan's the province to the east of us, so across the border, and Canada's really, really big, so it's like a 10-hour drive away from us, so they wanted to sell the house and stay based in Saskatchewan, basically. So we had to move again to the place I'm currently at. So there's a big gap there where I stopped going to therapy because life was chaotic and I had a lot of change very quickly, which also leads to mental health moments where you're stressed, you're scared, things are uncertain, you feel like you're never going to have a place of permanence, and a lot of that kind of came up and resurfaced for me. I had to downsize things because in that house we were renting, I thought we were going to be there for a year or two. Like, that was pretty, like, a solid place to live, great location for my city, and it was going to be good. It was great. So I had bought, like, my first, like, real big desk. I bought, like, other things that would be really great. And then we downsized to a tiny little condo, and I had to, like, resell a lot of things, and it just was so disappointing. Anyway, a lot happened in, like, a series of, like, 4 months, basically. And now I'm back and settled and set up in this new place, and I've been here for a while, a few months. Yep. Oh god, I think it's gonna be exactly 3 months here in, like, a couple days. Hello. Oh, look at that. And I was like, alright, it's time to go back to therapy, because there's a lot that we left off, and obviously I'm not in a place now where I felt like I had to censor myself, so I'm not being heard or listened to, and I can really let loose and explore all the things with, like, my parents and family and relationships and friendships, and let's go for it. I went back to the therapist to try to get scheduled with her, and she let me down because she said, great, we'll meet at this time, this dates, and never sent the link to meet, because we did virtual, by the way, because pandemic, and never sent me the link. So then I followed up with her again, and the same thing happened again. And I was like, okay, I know I haven't met with her in a few months, but this isn't okay. Like, I'm obviously reaching out to you because I need someone to help me process the last few months, and you're not here. So I began the search again for another therapist, which is just sort of par for the course. And it's stressful, it's hard to find a therapist, it is, so I know that's not an encouraging thing to hear, but once you find the one, or the potential one, basically, you start to feel a little better. So I did a little shopping, is what a few people say for therapy, like, you gotta shop for your therapist. Tried out a few sessions with a few different people, and now I'm with another therapist, and we've been meeting for a month and a half-ish. We've had 3 sessions, a month and a half. And that's usually my trial period, by the way, like a session or 2, up to 3, just to see, like, yeah, will this person work for me? Are they good at listening? Do they have the active listening skills I need? Are they compassionate, understanding? For me, that's the things I need, because I don't need a therapist to be very harsh with me, although I do appreciate some of the harsh lessons that come out of it. Anyway, I found one, and oddly enough, it's been really good, because she's quite different than the other one. She really wants to understand me first before we dive into anything to do corrective experiences and all that kind of therapy talk. So she really wants to explore a lot about me, and she's very astute. She learned a lot about me very, very quickly in the first couple sessions, that I feel someone who's broken. I feel like I'm too much for people. I don't have a lot of confidence. My change in career, working retail instead of being a teacher right now, has really shaken me to the core. That I feel trapped, and she picked up on all of that very quickly. So I was like, okay, I found someone that's getting me and has ideas and directions to go with this. That feels good, because honestly, I have no direction when it comes to therapy. I just go there and answer the questions, share the stories, and we'll see what happens. I'm a chaotic nerd, basically. That's really all it comes down to it. But she's got a direction for me, so it's kind of cool to have that and have her go, okay, so next session we'll kind of do a recap. So this is really nice for like how this therapist does things, because she'll recap what we've talked about and discussed in the previous session, and then ask some follow-up questions or to see how I'm feeling in regards to that last session and all the things going on currently, and give me an update about your week and all that stuff. Then she'll have a few things to ask me about, to be like, okay, so you mentioned last time at the very end of the session, which is clever for you, and I was like, ah, crap, calling me out a little bit, that you felt broken. So can you tell me about a time or an experience you've had where that was a reality for you, that you really started to feel that broken? And then we'd explore a few different scenarios in my life, because Lord, we have them all. And then she's like, okay, well, I'm here to tell you that through those experiences and things that you've been through, that doesn't mean you're broken. It just means that you were put into situations that were unfair, and you never had someone there to really heal or help you cope with it. And you didn't have the coping skills either, so you're not broken, you just need a little help. And I was like, oh, okay, well, help. Help me, please. And she will be like, we'll get there. There's still more I need to know from you, and we'll get there, but I just want to make sure you knew that, understood that, and we'll make sure you feel a little bit more like that through our sessions together. So it's a really nice setup that we have, and a good start to a relationship. So I feel optimistic about this, that we're gonna get somewhere where I feel better. So there's that. Like, that's kind of my take on therapy and where I'm at right now with therapy. Now, my mental health and how it kind of whoosh blossoms and flourishes and also destroys me. Oh boy, are we ready for this journey? So it's very funny. So I have homework for therapy. Yay. I'm a teacher, and if you're a student out there, I'm so sorry we give you so much homework. I get it. It's not fun, especially if it's a subject you don't like or a subject you're just trying to survive in. I'm sorry, I get it. That's me in therapy right now, just trying to survive, get through it, and understand myself a bit better. And then suddenly I got homework, and I was like, ah, crap. But my homework is to look at my strengths or weaknesses. So I'm going to just start with my mental health via that lens. Strengths and weaknesses. So strengths. Let's go with a positive twist here. I know I'm someone with a lot of passion, ambition, and I do want to constantly learn and grow. I really am that kind of person. And it's interesting because I didn't really recognize that in myself really until Toastmasters. So, ha ha ha, you thought I wasn't going to talk about Toastmasters this podcast episode. Here we are. But before really Toastmasters and before really settling in this new place that I'm at right now, I felt so lost because I came back from the UK teaching in a really uncomfortable environment to coming back to Canada and not having any opportunities to get back in the classroom. Feeling so lost because I had to take this retail job to make some money, pay back student loans, pay the bills, survive barely basically at this point. And it wasn't what I wanted, but then I didn't know what I wanted. I just felt that lost, I felt stuck, I just accepted this is the way things are, and I'm screwed. Like, that's really truly how I felt. And then I joined Toastmasters to connect with some people here in my city, form some friendships, hopefully, like that was the hope at least, and to work on my communication skills, confidence, and so much more since that first joining, really. And who would have thought that I was going to be in this group of people who were absolutely supportive and caring and wanted to see you thrive and grow. I was like, wait, what? This exists? There's a group of people like that for me? Amazing. And it was through that they helped me really get some confidence back. I was given that praise or that feedback, that positive feedback that you are a great speaker. You've got a lovely voice. I hear that a lot. Apparently I've got a good voice, guys. You've got a great voice. You come across as confident, which was, what? Me? Confident? You're joking. Like, literally this was last year, almost a year ago to this day, where someone said I come across as confident. I was like, oh, if you knew me every day or every other day of the week, no. But after hearing that more and more and more as my experience with Toastmasters is taking me a year later, I start to believe that. I am confident, at least in my abilities to handle things. So to handle big projects, big events, big turnout, I can handle last minute changes. I am flexible, I'm adaptable. And I've discovered all these like big positives for myself through Toastmasters. And it was amazing. I was like, oh, okay, I am meant to be a speaker. I am meant to communicate. I can form some connections. I can make friendships. I can be vice president of education for 2 clubs. I can make an exciting, engaging program week to week. I have fun finding quirky themes to bring into our meetings, serious themes to work on ourselves, and I'm supportive. I care about everyone's goals and what they want out of every experience, and that's a lot of strengths. And I developed all this really through Toastmasters and a few other things, like having this podcast, for example. If you would have asked me to talk about my mental health a year ago in this format, I would have said, haha, no, because that means people will hear me talk about my mental health. Now look what I'm doing. I'm sitting here, accepting it, exploring it, and sharing things, maybe not to a deep level, but enough. Like, I'm just stretching outside of my comfort zone with you guys here. And it's amazing. Like, there's that huge boost that I've been given. But now where's the downside? Where's actually where my mental health plays a huge role, a debilitating role in my life. I said I have confidence to handle things and have the skills and abilities to do things. I have confidence to do that. However, I'm not confident in my looks, in who I am. I really do struggle with that quite a bit. Out in public, I feel like people do judge me and look at me because I'm a bigger person. I don't always take care of myself. That's a huge part of mental health for me. I don't always take care of myself, which is really hard to admit. I don't always shower every day. I don't always shower every couple days. Sometimes I've only showered like twice a week, based on how inundated I get and how stressed I get. And that's another factor there. I don't really handle stress well. I kind of let a lot of other things go, like taking care of myself and getting enough sleep and rest and food. When I'm very stressed or I feel very concerned about something or I'm very, very focused on something, I let myself go. I stop caring about what I eat. I stop hydrating properly. I don't take care of my hygiene. And then it leads to other things that are not good, like binging Netflix for 10 hours a day instead of working on the to-do list I have, or recording an episode for the podcast, or for Unique Histories, or the game that I'm playing. I really just stop doing things because I get so overwhelmed, so stressed, that the only thing I can focus on is something to distract me from it, or I hyper-focus on the project or the thing that I'm working on. So there's a big revelation there for mental health. I hyperfixate on either a thing that leads to productivity or a thing that will get me away from productivity. And that's usually Netflix for me. It's watching all my sitcoms, because that's where my mental health is taking me, is I need to watch something that's comedic and real. I say comedy is real, but the sitcoms I watch, there are a lot of really real episodes throughout them. There's some from Brooklyn Nine-Nine that has some pretty big moments in there. Modern Family, of course, has big moments. Why am I talking about this? Anyway, I will do those things when I'm really stressed or I feel like I can't handle anything. And I lose that confidence and I lose the ability to take care of myself. And then I suddenly just forget about friends. I don't be social. I just really shut down and isolate. That's how that mental health works for me. And then there's other things that happen with that too. I still go to work. I don't take mental health days. That's another thing about my mental health, is I'll push through it and keep going, despite knowing that I'm probably 3 seconds away from crying, no matter where I go and what I do. I'll still go do it. And then when I'm at work, I am kind of unpleasant. I will not communicate with you. I will not talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. I just want to go there, get the job done, go home. So again, really isolating and separating myself from others because I don't want to be there. I don't like it. And again, it's a job I hate. I really do hate this job. So I can't separate that hatred and that feeling stuck emotion too. I can't separate them. I feel it every time I go to work. So mental health is a big role in that, for sure. And then so with the isolating and running away from everything that I tend to do is also doing that to my emotions, which you've already heard a little bit at the start of this podcast. I don't like to feel things. That's why I'll turn on the Netflix, or I'll play a game, or I will work on a project. I'll do anything possible so I stop feeling sad, or that I will not cry today, or I will not feel angry or frustrated or isolated or abandoned or rejected. I will do anything under the sun to get away from that feeling. But when you do that constantly, week in, week out, there's this buildup within you. And it builds, it builds, it builds. I can feel it in my chest. That's where I feel it a lot. Is that emotion. It's just kind of buried there. So you start feeling heavy, weighed down. And then it bursts. And for me, when that emotion bursts and comes out, it is burying my head under a pillow and crying. Like, not just your little like cries, it is the gross cry. It's the like runny nose, the sniffles, the tears, the snot, the like actual sob that you release because it just suddenly hits you. And it happens a bit for me. Quite a bit. It happens every like few weeks where I get to that point and it's like, holy crap, I am not okay and I haven't been okay. Cool. Don't know what to do with this. And then I'll just kind of let it happen, because if I stop myself in the middle of that big deep sob, then I know it will get worse the next time. So at least I have that. I will let it happen. I'll hide in my room, have it, that big huge moment, that release, and then usually I do feel better. Like, you finally have that, like, your chest doesn't feel so heavy anymore, my shoulders don't feel heavy, my head doesn't feel clouded. There's a weird clarity after that big release of emotions. And then I try to tell myself, don't let it get to this point again. Please, Dragyn, don't do this to yourself. So I try to do things in a different way now. Do I still have those big moments every month, maybe? Yeah, absolutely. But I've been trying to get to those points where if I am sad and I do feel like I'm going to cry, I will turn everything off. Literally, like my laptop, computer, phone, everything around me, so I'm not doing something to escape that cry, and just let it have a little cry. Well, just be like, you're sad today because you realize that you're going to a job you hate. Be sad about that. It's okay. You can cry over that. Think about any of your friends. If a friend came to you and told you, Dragyn, me, myself, that they're feeling sad today because they're stuck in this job that's way outside of their career, what would you tell them? I would tell them, yeah, that is sad. And you're okay to cry or feel what you need to feel with that. Do it, please. And so I try to do that to myself. And then I let it happen. And then you feel a little lighter. It doesn't solve your problems. Feeling emotions do not solve your problems all the time. But then at least it doesn't lead to that big sob, that big, huge cry fest that feels so awful until it's done. And then you feel that relief. I'm going to pause here because, like, saying this out loud and now I'm realizing this is being published in public. I feel so weird. I feel almost embarrassed by this, but my logic and my brain is saying, no, don't feel embarrassed by this because you're not alone. I'm sure people will hear this and relate. You're not alone with this. It's okay. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel ashamed. I'm in a situation in my life where things, they're both like really, really great, but both really, really awful at the same time. So my mental health acts in the way that it acts, and it's okay. And I'm doing all the right things to help. That's what I have to reassure myself right now in this moment. So I know I'm detracting away from the story a little bit, but I am in therapy. I have coping mechanisms in place for some things that make it a little better, make it a little easier, and it's okay to admit this. I'm okay. I am learning, I am coping, and I'm a better person. I know I'm a better person, and I will be a better person through this journey of therapy, mental health, building my confidence back up, finding solutions. That's going to be the next part of this little end of the podcast, is finding solutions, opportunities, continuing to grow, learn, and I will be okay. But yes, I feel a little ashamed right now, a little embarrassed, but it's okay. I'm not alone. You're not alone too if you feel this way. It's okay. We've got each other. We've got people to help us. Support exists. It's okay. I'm going to sit on that for a moment. So there'll be a little awkward silence here, but just sit with that for a moment. If you feel ashamed for your mental health or for how you feel or how you're dealing with it, feel that. Let it sit on that for a moment. And see what your thoughts do. So for me, I think that it's okay. I've been told it's okay at least, so I know it's okay. And it's a good moment to have with the podcast, a good moment to have with you, the viewer. This is what I've been kind of talking about, what I've learned actually throughout my therapy, throughout the exploration of these psychology videos, is that if you feel something, it just kind of surfaces a little bit, really randomly. Like, this is literally really random. I didn't expect to feel this way. Stay with it for a moment and let yourself know it's okay. So this is this kind of awkward moment. And I feel awkward because I'm not really engaging with you right now. This is not like a big discussion anymore. It's just me sitting here going, okay, I feel lighter. I do, because I've shared a lot with you, a lot more than I'm willing to be comfortable with. And because of that, not feeling fully comfortable in doing this, I do feel embarrassed, ashamed, and I have to just say it's okay. It's okay. And I hope you know that it's okay too. So, let's take a deep breath and let it go. So, there we go. Woo, did a little mental health exercise there. Look at that. And now to kind of wrap this up, let's wrap up this podcast. So, those are the ways that my mental health manifests, and it can be very debilitating. When you're not showering, taking care of yourself, brushing your teeth, you're not drinking water, you're not eating regularly either, that's really hard. It really is hard, because a lot of us sit here going, I know I need to do these things. I know I need to get up and shower. I know I need to get up and do this. I know I need to do this, but we just can't. And then that leads to more feelings, more negativity, more negative self-talk. And then you feel like you're stuck in that cycle. So what to do with that cycle? That's a question I don't even know how to answer, really. But one option, I suppose, will be go to therapy. Yeah, I will say that. Go to therapy. Explore these things with a therapist and see what can be suggested or practiced or experienced in that safe space. Or also find other ways to sit with it, accept it, and find that moment to release it and let it go. Kind of like this little exercise that I did here. There are many, many ways to help with mental health, and I've been exploring it a lot. I'm not perfect at it. I still definitely have those days where I never want to take care of myself, because what's the goddamn point? But then you'll find those things that will be like, oh, this is the reason why I want to do this. Oh yeah, I have a cat, and if I don't get up, my cat will die. And if my cat dies, then I know I'll feel worse than I feel right now. It doesn't replace what you're dealing with. It doesn't necessarily help per se, but you can sit there going, okay, today I find difficult because I know I have a lot to do and I'm really not willing to do it. But if I get up and at least do this one thing, then at least I don't have to worry about it again. I can cross that off, and then I can see how I feel after I cross off that one thing. Crossed off that one thing? Okay, I think I can handle one more thing. I can do one more. And it takes time, And if you can't even do that one thing, yo, that's alright. I've been there. Put on that Netflix and just do what you need to do. But mental health is hard. There's no win. There's no full on 100% I'm cured with mental health. That doesn't exist. But there's ways to explore it in a safe space to really understand who you are, how you handle things, and then you learn more about that, and in the end you'll be okay. You're not going to be 100% fixed. Lord knows I'm not. Holy crap, I'm not fixed at all, guys. But then you can understand, like, oh, okay, I'm doing all these things because I feel this way, and I have to try this thing I learned or looked up, and next I will see how that works, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, well, that sucks. But there's always an hour from now, or 2 hours from now, or the next day, or even next week where I can try it again. So my ending message, I think, for this podcast is that mental health is hard. There's healthy mental health, there's unhealthy mental health, and we just need to really be open about it. Find a person you trust to bounce these things off with in a safe space. Therapist, a friend, family member, someone that you know you can be open with and share this with people, because it helps. It breaks down the stereotype that we're broken. It breaks down the stereotype that we're too much for people, and it breaks that stigma. And I know one podcast episode's not going to do that for everyone, but at the end of this podcast I can say I've released this. It's open, it's out there, it's in public, and I'm okay. I'm okay with people knowing this. I'm okay with people hearing my thoughts and hearing more about me, because it needs to be explored. It needs to be talked about more. So my end advice to you is talk about it. And if you cry, if you get angry, or if you have an emotion or feel any certain way like I did today, that's okay. That's pretty typical, but make sure whoever you do talk to this about will be there to hold you if you need to be held, whether that's verbally, physically, emotionally, supportively. Just talk about it. Don't let it build up in your chest or in your head, in your heart, and break over and over again. If that happens, it happens. I'm not perfect with that either, but it's time to talk about it and be open. And this is my first step, and I hope you will have your first step soon too. So that's how I'm going to wrap up this mental health chat. Thank you for listening. We went all over the place here a little bit, but it's important to talk about it. And mental health isn't this clean, organized discussion ever, usually. So it goes all over the place, and I'm okay to have this episode be unorganized, because I was open, I talked about it, and I feel a sense of relief, a little bit of release, and I hope you find a way to feel that yourself too someday. If you need support and you are really, really struggling, there's going to be some support links in the description, as well as the other resources I brought up in today's episode. And do your best to be okay, because that's all we're doing in the end, is doing our best to be okay. So thank you so much for listening. Check out that description for all the resources available, and I look forward to hearing your story someday, or even see you in the next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.